State Rep Roni Green's professional life has been about helping people climb out of poverty and fighting for working class families. She started off as a caseworker at the Glendale County Assistance Office. Then she became a leader with the SEIU, and now she's a lawmaker in Harrisburg, representing House District 190 in Philadelphia. She joins us today to talk about the current struggle to get lawmakers in the state capitol to finally raise the Commonwealth's embarrassing $7.25 per hour minimum wage. Hi, Representative Green. Welcome to The Signal.
Thank you. Thank you, Cyril. Thank you for having me.
Can you start off by telling listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you went to school, just a snapshot about your life growing up?
So I was raised in Philadelphia, in North Philadelphia. My parents passed away very early. My father at the age of 14, my mother at the age of 17. I had to make a hard choice very early in life to raise my siblings. I raised two sisters, a brother, and two nieces, along with my two children. So going to school, I went as much as I could. I really didn't finish college, and I had to go to work. I had to make a choice to go to work, so I went to work because I didn't want my siblings to end up in foster care. I spent 20 years in the Department of Human Services for the state, for the Commonwealth, and SEIU was the union that represented the workers for that particular agency. And after 20 years, I decided to go and work for SEIU.
What were you doing with the agency?
At the agency, I was a caseworker, income maintenance caseworker, where I determined eligibility for cash, medical, and food stamps. So I've worked with many families, generations of families actually, and I was fortunate to be able to work in the area and service the consumers where I lived. That was good because we continually fought for different programming and tried to have a voice within that agency that would address the needs of those that were receiving those benefits.
And
Yeah.
what did you learn from your work there?
To bring it to today, what I think one of the things that inspires me to continue this advocacy around minimum wage is that I know that people struggle. I know that people are struggling. And when I listen to my daughter as a single parent, my constituents that I represent in Philadelphia, I hear the same story, Cyril, that I heard and that I experienced as a single mom myself 40 years ago. So I'm just, I wonder why people are not reaching that level of economic growth, because, we have low wage workers and we have low wage jobs and they're not moving. They're still going through the same challenges. They're still going through the same struggles that I witnessed as a mom. We had a saying in our, and I'm sure you know this saying, robbing Peter to pay Paul. I
Yeah.
thought I mastered that. I thought that I learned how to master robbing Peter to pay Paul because I lived from paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes the paycheck ran out before I got the next paycheck. So I did the things that I find myself telling my daughter, well, you have to do this and you have to do this. You have to make the money stretch as far as you can allow it to stretch. But I think over the years, had we been getting a progressive minimum wage, it would have addressed a lot of the issues and struggles that people see today.
And you said it was at your time at the county assistance office that you joined the SEIU.
Yes, yes.
So how did joining the union change your perspective and thinking about work and workplace democracy, if you will?
Yes. So joining the union changed my life. It changed my life and it changed the life of my children. My oldest daughter is a nurse. My youngest daughter, I'm just going to say, work in law enforcement. So my youngest daughter worked in law enforcement, graduated from CCP with honors, one semester away from a bachelor's degree at Temple. So it was life changing because the union, the cornerstone of the union is to fight for living wages, medical, benefits and other benefits, and a retirement, a pension that you can retire on with dignity. Those are the things that we fight for in the union. And these are the things that, even as a business agent, where I negotiated contracts for workplaces, these were the things that was important to people. You know, everybody gets up every day to go to work, to take care of themselves and their families. That's what they want. To be able to be self sufficient and take care of themselves and their families. You know, to be respected on the job. These are the things that people want because they have to get up a long time every day to do it. You know, so and most people want to work and most people want to do a good job. So, you know, giving people that space where they can thrive is what it's all about.
Speaking of giving people that space, the minimum wage in Pennsylvania has remained unchanged since 2010, and it's remained at 7.25 an hour, the same
Yes.
as the federal minimum wage, which is really a poverty wage.
Right.
Yet, in states surrounding PA, their legislatures have all enacted wage hikes. New York, New Jersey, Maryland, that's 15 bucks and up.
Mm-hmm.
Delaware, 13.25. Ohio,
Ohio,
10.72,
West
and even West
Virginia,
Virginia,
West Virginia.
8.75.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what is going on with Pennsylvania?
So what's going on with Pennsylvania? Let's just be honest. Let's keep it real. You know, the Republican Senate will not address minimum wage. You know, they came out with a bill, $10. Representative Laughlin came out with a bill, $10 a couple of years ago. Okay, we know that $10 minimum wage is not a living wage, right? We know this. You know, it's a couple of things that we know. We know that a $15 minimum wage would affect 1.6 million people immediately. We know that low wages suppresses other workers that would get a raise because rising tides lift our boat. We know this, you know. In one rally that I had at the Capitol, I specifically said, if Pennsylvania don't know how to do it, if they don't know how to raise the minimum wage, then visit a bordering state because they all have gotten it done. So, I mean, when I think about the constituents that I represent in Philadelphia, population of approximately 1.6 million, 365,000, around 325,000 workers live in poverty. If Pennsylvania, we could take that 325,000 workers that live in poverty and created a new city with just them, it would be the second largest city in the state of Pennsylvania. A $15 minimum wage is just a beginning in a city where you have 325,000 people in poverty. It's less people in the city of Pittsburgh than it is in Philadelphia living in poverty. So to not, I can remember, true story, the first Fight for 15 meeting I went to at Broad Allegheny in Philadelphia at a McDonald's. And I'm like, Fight for 15, the minimum wage was 7.25. I really thought that that was the right thing to do, that people would understand that we can't live on 7.25 and that's the right thing to do. I never thought it would take 16 years, and we're still fighting. We're still counting. I'm speechless.
So am I, and I'm sure so are a lot of other workers who are
I'm
suffering
speechless.
from this. Um,
Right.
but we've actually seen that raising the minimum wage actually has bipartisan support. It's been raised in red states, and I think recently in Florida even.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit about the bill that just passed the House to raise the minimum wage?
Yeah. So it is. So let me just, because one of the things that I realized over the last couple of weeks is that people don't understand the process. Right? As soon as we passed the bill out of the House, people thought we had a $15 minimum wage. And we don't. You know, that bill is in committee. The chairman of that committee decides which bills are going to run in that committee, right? Labor and industry, we have the chairman who ran a bill. It wasn't my bill. My bill called for a $15 minimum wage across the board. If we got to go back and forth and negotiate, let's go back and forth and negotiate. But everyone gets the $15. That was my House bill. What bill came out that was chosen to run was House Bill. I don't want to say. There's so many bills in my head. Rob, tell me the bill number. So it's a tier. It's a 3-tier bill, right? Philadelphia and Pittsburgh would get $15 immediately. All the collar counties would start at 12, then go to 12 and 26, 13 and 27, and 15 and 28. House Bill 1549 is the House bill that's running. Now, it took some time to get to that bill because people thought that it didn't originally start at 12. Originally, it started at 11. And people was like, that's too low, you know. So in order to get the bill out of the House, we had to come back together and work together to get a bill that we could get out and send to the Senate. 12 and 26, 13 and 27, 15 and 28, which for me, that's another 3 years before we get to 15, right? All our other bordering states probably be at 20, and we're at 15. So we can't even get House Bill 1549 passed. That bill went to the Senate, and that's where it's still sitting.
Not to mention in the more rural counties, the wage is even lower. It would only
Right.
increase to 10 and 26, and then $1 a year till hitting 12 an hour and 28.
So, but here's the thing: Philadelphia and Pittsburgh doesn't get a cost of living adjustment until all the other counties get reach 15. Even when I repeated, even repeating the bill.
It's hard to believe.
So we're
Yeah.
at 15, and we're at 15 in Philly and 15 in Pittsburgh. And now, while we're waiting for all the collar counties to get to 15, we get no increase. We just stay at 15. And then once all the other counties get to 15, then everyone will begin to receive, will be attached to inflation.
Now, did any Republicans in the House support that bill?
No,
I
it
mean,
was not a it was not a bipartisan bill. It was a party line bill.
yes.
It was a
And so
party
why is
line
that?
bill.
I mean, why won't they support any kind of, raising of the minimum wage? Do they think
I
7.25 an hour is enough?
Well, I've heard different things from different people, from different Republicans. I've heard 850. That let's just raise the minimum wage 50 cents a year to get to 850 and be done with it. I've heard $10, but what I haven't heard was let's address the needs and challenges of the people that we serve. Let's make sure that we're taking care of people first. That I have not heard because there's no one that said there's a high cost for low wages. And there is a high cost for low wages because I believe there is a direct correlation between crime, homelessness, joblessness, education. I believe that that's all connected.
Absolutely.
And when we connect the dots, we'll see that $15, even in a city like Philadelphia, who needs much more than $15 minimum wage, is being addressed. It's not being addressed.
Yeah, I mean, it ties
So I
into the
just feel as
affordable
though I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I
No,
interrupted.
I
Sorry.
just feel as though any platform, I don't care where, how, when, that I can raise the issue of minimum wage, I will. Because I will never, ever, ever forget what I've experienced in my life. And now I'm in a place that I'm supposed to be able to help other people. I'm going to do, and I'm going to fight with everything I have to bring attention and not let it seem like it's just another issue. It's not another issue. It's the issue. So,
And I think things will get even worse now that so-called big beautiful bill passed through Congress, really eviscerating the social safety net, helping people that are making these kind of poverty wages, giving them access to health care and food
yeah,
assistance. That's going to be all
absolutely.
gone in these coming years.
Absolutely. So, even when people we know that when people or consumers or constituents, when they spend money, they normally start within the community first and then outward. So, they're going to local businesses, they're going to local stores, they're increasing the economic revenue right in the communities that they live in. Why? We know that, millions of dollars would be generated in revenue by raising the minimum wage. We know this. When you have what's expected to happen, cut to food stamps, SNAP benefits, cuts to medical, I would even say cuts to jobs. We are looking at a potential devastating time. Why would we not pass the minimum wage? Why would that not be a source of revenue? I can't explain it. Because these are people that come every day that say that they're here fighting for the people. The argument was if we raise the minimum wage, small businesses will go under. Well, you don't think that New York and New Jersey and Delaware and Maryland and Ohio and West Virginia have small businesses? And then the next thing was, well, nonprofits would fold. Again, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Ohio, West Virginia, they don't have nonprofit organizations. So those excuses and those reasons are invalid. So they can't use that. You know, we need a call for action.
So let's go from there. What is the call for action for just
So the call for
working
action,
folks?
well, the call for action to me is simple. Nobody's coming to save us. If we want a minimum wage, we're going to have to fight for one. And fighting for one means it's all well and good to listen to this podcast. It's all well and good to watch a segment on television. But you yourself, as the worker, must do something. And if it's as simple as picking up the phone and calling the majority Senate leader, Joe Pittman, and I have a phone number at 724 357 0151 to say, hey, Senator Pittman, it's time. It's time for a raise in Pennsylvania right now. It's time. 16 years and counting. It's time.
So workers' lives only improve when workers are organized and when they act. And that's what I want to encourage everyone listening to this podcast to do, to call your local state representative and as well as your state senator, since this bill moved to the Senate, and demand that they, one, maybe take a meeting from you and a group of constituents, and two,
Mm-hmm.
get them to commit one way or the other on the record how they're going to vote on this and then why. They owe you that much. I mean, they
That's
work for you.
at the
Um,
very least. Yes.
Representative Green, before we end, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Now, I just want to say that, when I was elected, it was my union who ran me as a state representative. That's a whole nother story. It was my union who ran me as a state representative back in 2020. The first bill I ever introduced was a minimum wage bill. It was a $15 minimum wage bill. I have introduced a minimum wage bill every session. When I came back in 22, the first bill I introduced was a minimum wage bill in 23. And in 25, I introduced a minimum wage bill. So we have sent over several, and it's not just me. We have Senator Haywood. We have Senator Patty Kim. We have the labor movement. This is not just a one person. We have the labor movement standing with us. ASME, UFCW, SEIU, the laborers. Everyone understands that when you raise the minimum wage and you give people a pathway to economic growth, they will thrive. And that's what this is about. And you talked about the safety net. When you raise the wage, it helps to reduce the cost to the taxpayer for those expenditures. So it's all, raising the minimum wage is a win-win situation, not a win-loss situation. So Senator Pittman is the senator majority. He makes the decision. He is the one who makes the decision when this bill could run, whether it runs or whether it doesn't run. So this is why I'm asking to have workers, Whether you a low-wage worker, service industry worker, if you're just a worker, to pick up the phone and give him a call and let him know that it's time, it's past time, that we're 16 years and counting for a minimum wage increase in Pennsylvania.
Well, Representative Green, thanks so much for your work in the State House and for fighting to improve workers' wages and lives. And thanks again for coming on The Signal.
Thank you so much, Daryl, for having me.
This has been The Signal, a podcast by the Bucks County Beacon. I'm Cyril Migaleko, Editor-in-Chief and host. For more progressive news, analysis, and opinion from Bucks County and beyond, go to www.buckscountybeacon.com.